Next, I want to install my armrests. So I really didn't design these for this car. These armrests are straight out of my Toyota Hilux interior, and figured, it's fine. When I looked up photographs of this car's interior, yeah, they're pretty simple. So I figured, who cares? You know, just wing it a bit. Seems that these holes are a bit small. This was an FDM print. So let me just enlarge these a bit with a 1.5 millimeter bit. Just using a pin vise. That's good enough, just to scrape away some of the residual. This FDM printer, this is an Ender, an utterly unmodified Ender, and it did a exceptional job on these. Okay, perfect. Put a little dab of model glue on all of these and we'll be good to go. I went with a gray for the armrests and a charcoal for the door panel, simply because I wanted the contrast. Okay, and here is the door pull. Again, this is off the Toyota Hilux, and we'll just pop that right in place here. Hopefully it's gonna fit again. I may need to slightly clean up the Ender's print, but it should go in. There it goes. It's actually gonna pop right in there. Nice. Okay, there we have it. I'll glue it in place. Front door panel has a little bit extra complication. So again, we'll put in our armrest. These Toyota armrests are getting a lot of use here. Okay, so that is in. The door pull, so this is gonna open. Seems like you'd wanna pull it toward you. Again, this doesn't really exist on the real car, so we're just gonna wing it up with that one in. There we go. And the only addition is going to be the window crank. And that'll just pop right in here. I'm gonna pull it up a bit more. I don't know if the dash is in the way, so we'll make it more visible. Maybe like this. Not too worried about these little imperfections from the print because the driver's leg is right about there. I painted the backing area for the turn signal in silver, and you can see it gives it a significantly brighter look. If it was red, it kind of would blend away. I also painted this section in the grille because if you look at the actual grille, that is open. Now, theoretically, I painted it enough. I don't know if that's the case, but we'll, fingers crossed. At the rear, you can see here that I painted this in low gloss black. I would have patched these up with some body filler. The thing is, this plastic is ultra flexible, so I was concerned that it would simply crack, so it just wasn't worth it. What I'd like to prepare now for the interior is the dash to be illuminated. Earlier, I cut out these inside sections there, and it doesn't have to be cut out very well. I've also got the cluster and the vent controls here. I also made a little slit right there for the probably AM or AM/FM radio. To get these to work properly, we're going to have to cut out a couple pieces of Lexan. This is 1 millimeter thick, and around the perimeter, I painted it black. The reason for this is that when you illuminate this Lexan, it will actually behave as a light pipe and project light around the perimeter, and you'll get this awful glow around here. So I just painted it with a coat of matte black, and that should help to mitigate that. So now I'll put these decals onto the corresponding parts and then glue these in to the dash. I've wired up the lights for the dash, and it looks awful right now. If I cut the studio lights, so effectively I have 3 LEDs in there. One here is illuminating this one right there, the radio, and the rest are illuminating all the rest of the cluster. The LEDs are pointed like this. They're not pointed straight on in. They're pointing this way so that the LED projection angle is, you know, a little better. Let me flip it over. It looks okay. If I flip it over here, you can see the dark spot right here on the right is not as pronounced at all in person. But what's going on here is the black printing on the cluster is so light. Usually the black is a lot more opaque, so you'll see the light dispersed through the lighter colors, and in this case here it's simply not what's happening. So not too thrilled with what happened, but it gets the point across, I guess. I mean, you can envision it as one of those clusters that illuminates from the top down instead of from the rear. These turn signals. Now there are 3 of them per side on the WPL D42. So we've got the one at the front, the one at the side, which I haven't put in yet, and the one here at the rear. On eBay, it is possible to find this product here. One order does come with 2 sets. Let's go ahead and see how these work. Allegedly, on the actual PCB of the van, you have a couple of turn signal ports. Now, I do not know if this is true of the D12. The D42 is newer than the D12. So these are the 2 ports here, this one and this one. I don't know which is right, which is left. I can't see anything written on the PCB. So we're going to plug something in here, and we're going to plug something in here. And theoretically, turning will make lights blink. So let's turn. Yeah, wow. So the circuitry is actually there. Look at that. Nice. And the other way. Okay, outstanding. That's awesome. So once you've got these 2 installed, you'll notice that there's one other port here. That port is for the headlights. So just popping this back in. And these cars all come with headlights. I don't know. There's nothing else in here that gives any indication of a way to power the taillights. But at least we do have our turn signals. Let's go ahead and see how they look installed. All right, to install the front, it just pops right into the rear of the front turn signal. The rear will go in the top of the rear taillight housing. Now there's usually a little cover that covers this here. There's a living hinge right there, but this side here it was kind of broken already. The other side was fine, so we'll just have to glue this back on. This one here, the center one, does have its living hinge, and it just presses right in there. You'll route the wires downward, and then this cover, yeah, there's a little clip right there. We may need to just shove those wires a bit out of the way. That little clip, it's engaged now, so that's covered, and the wire will just route through the bottom like that. And this is a lovely light blocker. It's always important to route the wiring as cleanly as possible, otherwise it's just kind of a catastrophe. So like here, for example, we'll just hold the wires there, drop in a small dab of hot glue, okay, and let it cool. The next thing I want to do is install the door panels on this vehicle. So we'll go ahead and grab ours. For the driver's side, you know what I want to do first is I actually want to put in the mirrors, because I don't know how much they stick out of this area. So let me put those in real quick. So that mirror is in, and as it turns out, I calculated things correctly. That's always nice to see. So to hold it in place, very simple. Get some hot glue, 1 glob, and 2 glob. That should do it. Just drop it in place. And you just want to make sure that the top, and I can't do it now, obviously, but the top of the door panel is level with the top of the window frame, like so. And let it cool. Don't put too much hot glue there, because what you don't want is to create a massive hot spot and to actually melt the body. Hot glue is incredibly hot, and some plastics are, I hate to say it, just have very low melting points. So be careful with that. With that installed, let's investigate how the rear is going to be installed. So here we go. That'll drop in right here. This is a little bit trickier because you can't actually shove your hand back over here. So what you're probably going to have to do is have it rest at the bottom of the little clip. Yeah, as it turns out, exactly what my thought process was. So we'll just run a little bead of hot glue. Nothing too crazy, just like that. You're welcome to use shoe glue. That'll work awesome as well. I am in a rush, so nothing bad ever happens when you're rushing through things. I can't imagine how this could possibly go wrong. So I spliced into the main power lead to the car, or from the battery to the car right here, and that's going to go to a switch. It's not elegant. Usually I would put something downstream of the power switch. This way, if you turn that on, the lights will come on. Even if you want to put a switch in here, you can always have an on and off switch there and have that controlled by that switch. This way, if you shut the car off, you don't leave the lights on by accident. Honestly, I don't want to mess with this PCB, so I'm not going to do that. And I just went ahead and did it here. So whatever, it's going to work. That was horrible. The process of actually installing the body isn't great because there's these clips here on the inside of this inner fender well that clip onto the body. And you've got to like pry things apart, and it's bad enough when the car is not full of wires. When you add all this, it makes it a lot more irritating. The wiring for the markers was a pain. You can see that everything is working correctly. Oh God, please tell me that, thank God, okay, they are flashing in the correct orientation. I love that. So that's all working. Now we have to actually wire up the remaining components, which is scary because, as you can tell, if the body ever has to come off again, I have to cut the wires or solder them. I'm going to go ahead and solder all these up to this power switch, which we're going to stick right there. And then I think we're done. I whipped up these emblems here. You'll notice here that I've got the side markers and the fuel cap. That's because I misplaced mine. We'll just focus on these guys here. This is printed at Shapeways using the ultra detail plastic. The first thing to do is to snip it off of the sprue, and I'm going to paint these in a low gloss black material. Prior to that, it is important that you wash these with soap and water, or even detergent and water, because there still can be residue from Shapeways. With my flush cutters right here, this is what you'll get right there. This is a couple of coats of low gloss black. Got my silver Sharpie, and I'm going to simply glide it right on across these embossed letters, and we should get a really crisp edge on these things. There is RD. Now, again, man, it looks awful on camera. It's quite lovely in person. It's very bright red. Cut it as close to the base as possible. And we may even want to give this a light sanding. Any protrusion is going to prevent them from sitting flush, so we'll do that to both sides. Got all the emblems off. You'll notice if you flip them over that these high-jet emblems are not the same. This one here has a detent, and that is because it is going to align to a feature on the grill. On the grill, there's this embossed area. Now the area is not centered. It's slightly below the size of this slot to the left. So theoretically, this little guy here should pretty much line up right on, and it does. It doesn't want to drop any lower, and moving it left and right, it kind of gets stuck. So that's where you're going to glue it. Obviously, you're going to have to be very careful. Apply a very light coat, and I am going to use super glue in this case, but you want just a hairline on this here because you don't want to press it down and have it squish out along the edge. I'm not going to do this on camera because I also have to be very careful, and it's just not possible when I've got this effectively vertical right now. Signals are there, working nice and cool. Let's take a look at the cluster. So the little switch is under the car right there. Taillights will look outstanding. I love the signals. And the cluster looks great. Look through here. Radio lights on. I kill this a little more here. We can see it. Sorry. As I mentioned before, unfortunately, the sticker isn't great. It looks weird right there. It's not as orange as you see it, but I will admit, though, that in person, it's still really washed out. Oh, well, it is what it is. The good news is that you do get this kind of cool orange reflection. Overall, the build came out really good. I love the color red. Now, also, ironically, what the heck is this? Oh, some hot glue. WPL just released a red version of this. Of course they did. So, you know, that's amusing. Anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it. You can see everybody inside here. She's got a little micro machine she's playing with over there. It's roughly 1/10 scale, I'd say. Here, Aquaman has got a model ship. You know, I mean, it makes sense, right? He's into the water. Cyclops has got some alcohol. And Steve Irwin in the back has got a flashlight. I think his other hand has got nothing. However, there are two more quote-unquote RC cars. There's a couple of shoes, a couple mic machines in there, a little basket. And I think overall a pretty full van. It gives it a little more of a, I don't know. Gives it a little bit more of an interesting feel. It isn't as heavy as you would think, and it seems to run reasonably well, or we'll see, at least on flat ground. I'm sure the minute we hit a grade, it's going to require some assistance. Thank you again for watching the video, and we will see you next time.